Are you kidding me? Guys, I just figured out why Moxley is so mad at Naito. I just figured it out, and you're not going to believe what I found out. So I really do hope you stay to listen to the full entirety of this podcast episode because it is shocking, it is mind blowing, and what's up? And thank you for listening to a brand new episode of the Square Circle podcast by your host, Marieshadows. And on this episode, we're going to be talking about the thing that I found out about why Moxley is so mad at Naito for challenging him for that IWGP World Heavyweight Championship title, which again, he's not my champion, but I found out the reason why he's super mad. And that's all thanks to Twitter. Now, before I get into some stuff, and again, tell you my opinions, which I'm not afraid to tell you my opinions, but I do think that we are getting a little bit tired of me talking about Moxley this and Moxley that. All I want is for the guy to improve in the ring, in a kayfabe sense. Nothing personal, nothing in his personal life, nothing like that. I just want this guy to improve inside the ring, have some structure, have some guidance, have something to where it does not look like he's a fake tough guy. If you want to eliminate all the quote unquote and air quotes negativity surrounding Moxley as a champion, Moxley has to give it 110%, change up his character, change up the way he does things, learn how to do a promo, because the way he does promos is not it. You can't just pick and choose when to be mad, when to not be serious, and then be serious when the situation doesn't call for it. There's a lot of things that go into making a promo. There's a lot of things that goes into making a story. There's a lot of things that go into creative direction. And if you are just left to do what you need to do, it is not going to end well. And this is exactly what we're seeing from Moxley. And I'm probably getting away from me saying, hello, welcome, thank you for listening. If you enjoy this whole entire episode, please share it out with a friend, share it around who you know, because they might be interested in listening to this. And of course, leave a comment down below. I do reply to everybody, so don't be afraid to leave a comment, but please let it be a civil comment with absolutely no name calling, no toxicity. If you want to share your perspective, I welcome a perspective. I welcome an opinion, but keep it civil. Other than that, I have been taking advantage of the YouTube community tab. So if you guys don't know, I have been posting up YouTube posts, which basically are in the community tab on the YouTube side of things. So you can also comment there and we could keep the conversation going. And then anything else to further support me by signing up to the wrestling newsletter, marieshadows.substack.com, signing up to the Fourth Wall account, which you could get a membership for extra content, which I'm still trying to figure it out. Give me some time, and there'll be extra links. All of my links will be down in the description box below. And I just want to let you know that I am very, very passionate about professional wrestling, but you guys knew that. You guys really did. Sometimes I like to give a longer explanation to what happens over on Twitter as like a social commentary, because there's not enough words for me to express all of my thoughts about professional wrestling. And for some reason, over the past couple of weeks, well, months now, since Moxley has been IWGP champion, again, not my champion, there has been so many tweets about just fluffing him up. And it's like, I don't understand why fans are so delusional in wanting to fluff up somebody that doesn't make a lot of sense to fluff up. No other previous IWGP champion has gotten the same amount of fluff that Jon Moxley has gotten. And it's sort of like, when you look at it, why is it happening? Does it make sense? Are people just fluffing him up just because of clout? Just because of being genuine with it? Like, I haven't seen a genuine post about why they fluff up Moxley, or they're fluffing him up because this guy has overcome obstacles, when guess what? Everyone in this world has overcome obstacles and have come out better on the other side. That doesn't mean you use it as the token of this is who I am. It's a part of you, but you don't use it as the token of like your foundation story of we're going to repeat the same thing over and over and over and over again. I need to hear something different. I need to hear some extra layers. I need to hear how much of an improvement you are having, because if you keep telling the same sob story over and over, it tells me that nothing really has changed. You're holding on to the past. The past is the past. It's okay to let it go, because that past has pushed you into becoming a better person. So now we should focus on the important things, like what you can do in the ring, what kind of stories you can tell, because obviously the past that was holding you down and not really being present is no longer there. So you should be better on the other side. My whole thing is that the fluff of Moxley just comes from a place that it just regurgitates the same story, and it doesn't add anything onto what Moxley can do. Moxley plays this tough bad guy and this psychotic guy that you can't tell them anything. They break all the rules. They want to have anarchy every single time, 24/7, but you cannot have anarchy 24/7. You cannot be a rule breaker 24/7. And I know that in today's world, that if you use the word can't, which is CAN''T, connecting two words, cannot, people get upset over that as if like we're trying to cage them in, but that's far from the truth. There is a time and place for breaking the rules. There's a time and place for wanting anarchy. There's a time and a place for wanting something to go against the grain, the machine, whatever you want to call it. But you cannot base a wrestling persona around that 24/7 and expect people to be on your side, because it is tiring. It does get frustrating seeing the same thing over and over again. How many times is Moxley going to bleed in a match? How many times is Moxley going to have a singles match where you know that it's going to be regular rules? However, if it's a Moxley match and it's a singles match, expect it to turn into a hardcore match, because that is his clutch now. That is what he relies on. So why is there fluff for Moxley that always chooses to rely on hardcore weapons? Can he not get the job done by just basic wrestling? Moves, holds, submissions, sequences that make sense? Because if you guys heard the last podcast episode of me breaking down Moxley versus Evil and calling that match cold, I just need things to make sense when Moxley is out there. So the only reason why I am bringing this up is because I believe that I have ruffled some feathers, which is nothing new, by me just asking questions. Because I really want to know why Moxley all of a sudden is getting this fluff to try to make him out to be the best IWGP champion or the best wrestler when he doesn't wrestle. He is more of a brawler like Mick Foley, Sandman, people in ECW, because that's what he is. He's portraying that. He's trying to be stone cold, but it's very, very cold. Really, really trying to be. And it's not working. So I'm just asking, like, why is his promo on AEW Collision really, really angry? And every time that I ask, like, hey, can someone tell me why Moxley is super angry? Can someone tell me why Moxley wants to put Naito into the ground, into a coffin, and really take away his career? Why is he so super angry? There's a disconnect between the way that Moxley tells his stories with his indie career more than the WWE career, because at least in the WWE career, Moxley had a guidance that made sense. Even if he wanted to fight the system and like quit when it got a little bit later, but he just wanted to do things his way. And now that we're seeing it unfold by doing things his way, it's like, it's not making sense, dude. You need some type of guidance. You need some type of help, because he can only say for so long that people have doubted him. People have held him back. He has climbed to the mountain. He is on top of the mountain. And all this stupid shit that he says in every single promo. No promo is different. Every promo has the same kind of story and there's no substance to it. How many times am I going to tell you guys that, oh, I've been to the top of the mountain. You guys don't know what that mountain is, but I've been there. I climbed, I scratched, I clawed. That's a WWE kind of writing, that you scratch and you claw and you gave your blood, sweat, and tears. Like, oh my God, like no one else has done that before. Every single wrestler has done it before. Normally, I would be like, yeah, congratulations. You have definitely put in a lot of work. You definitely deserve it. But if you're going to use it as the main focal point for you, rather than thinking about we and trying to think about other words in your vocabulary to paint us a story about why we should care of your journey to the top of the mountain, like, give us something. Don't just be like, people have tried to hold me back and doubted me and all this kind of stuff. Why don't you name drop? Why don't you actually tell us a story about a time where someone did doubt you? No one really doubted him. It's really super exaggerated, because any wrestler and any person alive can say that people have doubted them. People have doubted me, but I'm not going to use that as a crutch to be like, look at where I'm at now. I started the podcast in 2019, 2024. I've had amazing opportunities, amazing conversations, and I keep on going. People have doubted me. People have dragged my name on the internet. I'm still here. I'm still kicking. I'm not using it as a crutch. I need Moxley to tell us something new. I don't need regurgitated nonsense where you could poke holes in it and you're like, whoa, what else can you tell me? The same thing about climbing this mountain. What fucking mountain are we talking about? Even though I know it's a metaphor and that it's not as real as like it is, it's climbing your way up to the top. Moxley did the indies before going to WWE and getting like his contract. And then once he got his contract, he stood there and he was at the very top of the mountain and then squandered it when he was on the Stone Cold Steve Austin podcast, like a deer in headlights. And from that moment on, it was just downhill from there. And WWE saw this, eventually released him, and he went on the indies, went crazy. Nothing made sense. He had a bunch of matches. And like I said before in my other episode for Inside the Locker Room, explaining wrestling terms, like the term workhorse, a wrestler can have all the matches in the world, but you also have to have story, psychology, memories. Those are the things that make the matches great, the story great, the career great. And if all you're going to have is match after match after match after match, it's not going to work out well. No one remembers any of his indie stuff. Like if I ask anyone that's listening currently to name off some indie matches he had in 2019, 2020, anything right after WWE without Googling it, would you be able to tell me? My point being is that he made it to the top of the mountain. WWE is the top of the mountain. And just because he decided to leave doesn't mean that he falls down the mountain, because his name now has value and worth to it. He's a former WWE superstar. And no matter what happens, that should be something to be celebrated about, because he made it. There's a lot of guys in this industry and a lot of guys in certain states don't make it to WWE. And when he went on to the indies, he was welcomed with open arms. Who stopped him on the indies? And I'm not talking about like match wise. I'm talking about like promoter wise and maybe individual wrestlers in the locker room or whatever, not match wise. but nobody stopped him. Nobody doubted him. Everyone celebrated him. GCW welcomed him with open arms to the point of inviting Nick Gage over to AEW. So what story is he really trying to convince us that is very fucking stupid? You're trying to convince us that people held you down and doubted you. And this is to all the naysayers. Let the past go, Jon Moxley. Let the past go. Evolve your persona or your character and make something that is meaningful. Evolve the character to where people can be on your side, because right now there's a lot of people that are not on your side, and then you have people that fluff you up and it's not working. No one is believing the fluff. Okay, so let me get to the heart of this. I just like to ask questions. I don't hate anybody. Hate is a strong word. I rather use the word dislike. I enjoy healthy conversations and debates and perspectives. But if there's a constant pattern of just fluffing stuff up and making stuff up and using the line of, well, say what you want about this person and then blah, 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 you go and put your opinion, that to me just seems like you really don't want to have a genuine discussion. You want people to agree with what you say, because if you preference something by saying, well, say what you want, means that you don't really want to listen to anybody that has a different perspective that can have you start thinking like, oh, maybe it is sort of true. You are not supposed to agree with the person 100%, because again, if you agree with someone 100% of the way, you might end up just turning into a robot, into an echo chamber, and we don't want that. To have healthy discussions is to have disagreements and then like agree to disagree, but then also to have an understanding. You could disagree with someone so many times, but you might find that one piece of information that that person says to be the common ground of, okay, I understand now. Even though we've had disagreements in the past, I understand because in this very moment, I get it. And I know where you're coming from. Not everyone is coming from a bad place when they decide to ask questions, when they decide to push back, because they know that there is facts given when someone pushes back, when they know more about something. And it's not just writing something that sounds really fake for what it is and just fluff and just put it out there for clout and be like, yeah, see, we're all on Jon Moxley's side. Woohoo! He's our champion. But remember, he's not signed to New Japan Pro Wrestling. So he's not a New Japan talent. He's not a New Japan guy. Like I said, if someone gives them their word, don't trust it. Even though he's a very trustable guy, don't trust it, because in this business, how many times have people gotten burned when someone gave their word and then they're like, oh no, I can't, I'm not gonna make it, I'm gonna be a no-show because somewhere else is a better opportunity. Like I said, we've seen this so many times on the indies. So why are you fluffing up a non-New Japan Pro Wrestling talent? He's an AEW talent. If he had an AEW belt, I would not be making content about this. But because I hear regurgitated stuff, especially on commentary, and then to use that when I'm asking questions like, why is he mad at Naito? Did we ever figure that out in the promo? Why this and why that? And there's something else that I want to speak to, which may end up being sensitive for a lot of people. And it's when people say that Jon Moxley has overcome addiction. We know that addiction is a problem, especially in professional wrestling. Every single wrestler and every type of person that you know in your life has dealt with addiction, and they either seek help or they don't seek help. What I'm about to say next is just that the wrestlers that have gotten over their addiction, such as Kurt Angle, Jeff Hardy, Randy Orton, the Usos, because they had DUIs, and like anybody else, why are we not celebrating them and giving them the same fluff treatment as Jon Moxley? Why is that a talking point for Jon Moxley whenever we're trying to talk about the kayfabe things that he does in the ring. Because remember, wrestling is kayfabe, wrestling is theater. But why do we always have to bring that up as a talking point? We don't do that with Jeff Hardy. We don't do that with Randy Orton. We don't do that with anybody else. We accepted that they have all accepted their past, and you cannot change the past, but they don't use it as a talking point for anything that they do within the world of professional wrestling. But when it comes to Jon Moxley, that has to be a talking point of like, he overcame addiction, he overcame the naysayers, he overcame the doubters, and all this kind of fluff. And I'm like, I get it. I totally get it. But what else? What else can he do? What else can he tell me? What else is his character about other than getting over those obstacles, which is fantastic. Anybody who gets over those obstacles and is at the top of the mountain is fantastic. But let me know something else, because it's getting boring. It's getting pretty boring up here to listen to the same stories over and over and over and over again. If you keep holding on to the past, you're never going to become the person that you should be becoming in the future. That's all I'm saying for this little segment here. Now, I responded with some very spicy stuff. And I honestly think that we don't really talk about this enough, is that the placement that Jon Moxley is big mad at Naito. And I was doing some research because I was like, wait a minute. He can't be this big mad at Naito for wanting a championship title rematch, but not be big mad at Evil for spray painting Kadani, who runs Bushi Road, who gives Jon Moxley and everybody else a platform to wrestle on, and also that Evil spray painted the belt. Why was he not big mad for that? All he could say was, House of Torture is bullshit. What is that? Like, why? What is that? So I had to do some digging, and I went on to Cage Match because I was like, there has to be more matches between Naito and Jon Moxley, because somebody on Twitter told me that the story is that Mox beat Naito, but Naito's still coming back for more. So now Mox is going to put him down for good. That is a lame story that has no layers, no nothing, because guess what, guys? The reason why Moxley is big mad at Naito, the reason why his Collision promo was like very, very angry, is because they had two matches. According to Cage Match, they had two matches between them. One in 2019. The other one just recently in 2024 at Windy City Riot. So, oh my God, guys. Moxley is big mad because Naito keeps coming for him and Mox wants to put him down for good. What kind of story is that? That is not a story. Do you want to know what is a good story that had this kind of animosity? It happened in WWE. It was between John Cena versus Edge. That would have been the perfect time to have animosity and anger and where you really want to put somebody down for good because they keep coming after you. They keep coming after you. Naito barely goes after Moxley, and Moxley wants to be like, I'm going to put you down for good because you keep coming after me. Bro, you guys had two matches. Calm down. Like, that makes no sense. And this is what the IWC is trained to think, that a simple story of having two matches, not even back to back, with years apart, and they want to be like, yeah, that's because Naito keeps going after Moxley. Well, who's the one that wanted the title shot in the first place? Moxley. Moxley keeps trying, so he's the one that's chasing. Naito's not doing anything. Naito's just like, all right, cool, you know, I'll give you a title match, and then realize it was the wrong decision to be like, yeah, we'll let him win. And then he wants to get it back, and he didn't even attack Moxley. Naito did not even do Naito things, meaning that nothing to get inside Moxley's head. But Moxley all of a sudden wants to be like, I'm going to put you down for good because you want to come after my title. Like, it makes no sense. It really doesn't. The mental gymnastics for people to jump through to tell you this is the story because of 2 matches. I honestly thought that they had a couple more matches and then I would have been like, all right, cool, I'll back off. I'll watch the match. Maybe I'll watch the match at Forbidden Door, but I'll back off. But I just really couldn't because I started to realize in my spicy response to Walker, again, no shade, no hate, no dislike, no nothing. But it's all on Twitter. If you want to, you can follow me on Twitter at Marie_shadows. But I really did mention in my response that Mox is a threat to himself and that Naito is not the biggest threat that Moxley is making him out to be. Why is Moxley trying to make Naito the babyface here and Jon Moxley is the heel? In New Japan Pro Wrestling, there is a clear-cut structure of baby faces and heels. Why would Naito want to be a babyface? He already apologized for losing the championship title to the Japanese people and said that that was his fault. He should have never lost it, which, by the way, Naito, don't apologize. People like myself and others understand that it's politics in wrestling why you lost. Other than that, why are we trying to make this into babyface Naito and heel Moxley? But then I know halfway through this story, whatever we get, because we're going to get scraps, it's not even going to make sense. Moxley is going to change into a babyface somehow. Like, it needs structure. This is what I've been saying, that it needs structure, but we get fluff instead. Nobody wants to call it out. Nobody wants to be like, hey, there are fundamentals here that should be followed. So that was basically my big surprise for you guys, to let you know that Mox is big mad at Naito for wanting to put him into the ground and wanting to end it for good just because they had 2 matches. There's no substance here. There's nothing here. Now, it will be great. Like, this is the part in the program between Jon Moxley and Naito. This is the perfect time to introduce the fighting champion. So that way, everyone who talks shit about Jon Moxley not being the right champion, he's not on the tours, throwing him all this shade, this would have been the perfect time to start the arc of, I want to be that fighting champion. And because he says every single time, I'll fight you anywhere, at any time. It doesn't matter who it is. Well, now it's time for you to cut promos and to do everything that you need to do as a wrestler with the full package to prove to the people that they are wrong. And you're going to have a very standard competition with Naito come Forbidden Door. That you're going to be that fighting champion, that you can be that leader. But Moxley doesn't know how to be a leader. Not at all. Because everything is so disorganized. And when you see it, you're like, oh, why is it so disorganized? Why is it this? Why is it that? So, yeah, that's basically what I wanted to talk about, because I honestly thought that my name was going to get dragged again on social media, because you can't have a difference of an opinion. You can't push back on someone else just trying to fluff up stuff and trying to be like, well, this is what it is, when it's not. And to call it out means that the company can change. The person can change. Because again, in the world of professional wrestling, there's just a fundamental structure to follow. And it is not broken. So if it's not broken, don't fix it. Because right now it's just chaos and stupidity. And nobody can really tell you what Mox does in his promos that can put over people, because I've called it out before in his other promo. The other thing I wanted to mention too was just another perspective of this. So after Naito lost the championship belt, I probably would have told Naito, yo, you're showing up on AEW Dynamite, you're going to attack him because that wasn't cool, right? You do that to create interest in both New Japan Pro Wrestling and AEW and this partnership, because fans will start to talk. Fans would be like, oh shit, did that really mean to happen that Moxley took the belt over to AEW? Or was that not part of the plan? Or they'll just come up with a bunch of stuff and they'll start talking, and that'll be publicity, and more people will tune in to see this partnership because Naito is upset. Naito lost in America. He did not lose in Japan. If he lost in Japan, oh man, it'll be a different type of story we're telling here now. It'll be great. But because Naito lost here in America at Windy City Riot, he should have went straight over to Dynamite, attack Moxley, and now Naito is showing up on AEW programming to get people interested in this, so that way they can take it back to Japan or whatever the case may be. You want people talking, but no. What happened after the loss? Naito goes back home. Naito goes into a mini little program with Bullet Club War Dogs, and Jake Lee shows up and attacks Naito and wants to take everything away from Naito. And then here in the States, we have Jon Moxley cutting a promo against Will Hobbs that made no fucking sense. Again, by the way, go check out that podcast episode where it's called Jon Moxley Can Sell You Snake Oil, because at this point I believe that wrestling fans who are fans of Jon Moxley will buy whatever he's talking, buy whatever he's selling, and it's gonna be like, it's not working. It really isn't. If you guys don't know the phrase of snake oil, it's basically something that someone creates for you to either take or listen to, and it has no benefits whatsoever. It's there as like a placebo effect where it's supposed to help you out, but it really doesn't. That's Jon Moxley at this point. Jon Moxley's promos are all snake oil because it makes no sense. There are times where it works barely. I'll give it like 60%, and then the other times it doesn't work at all. Anyway, you want to create interest between Jon Moxley and Naito. Not just Jon Moxley being mad that they faced 2 matches. This is going to be their 3rd match, and he wants to be done with Naito. Naito hasn't even begun to make you want to be like, I'm done with you, Naito. There's many Naito feuds that Naito has in New Japan Pro Wrestling where the wrestler, his opponent, could definitely say, yo, I want nothing to do with you at all. We've been wrestling time and time again. Why do we keep doing this? But just over 2 matches? No. The other thing I wanted to bring up too is that Naito doesn't get no fluff pieces. Naito gets love, but not the same love as Jon Moxley. And for Naito's story, I don't know how many of you know his story and why he opens up his eyes or his eye when he comes out. And that's because when he was on excursion in Mexico, everybody made fun of him for being Japanese, for not having his eyes open. So that's Naito's story. But you don't hear Naito really chugging that along. He made it part of his character. He made it part of who he is and how he became Naito. But he doesn't really talk about it as much. But with Moxley, we're always like his addiction, which, by the way, why doesn't he show off the coins that AA gives people when they are sober? Everyone else shows off their coins to be like, I've done it. I have been holding strong and I feel better and I want to thank everybody and support and stuff. He doesn't show off or make those kind of posts or even just share with fans like, hey, I'm still doing okay. Just asking questions here. No harm, no foul. We always talk about Moxley's doubters wherever they are. I don't doubt Moxley, by the way. If anyone says it in a comment, I don't. I just want him to improve his wrestling ability, his promo ability, and everything kayfabe in professional wrestling. Moxley is always talking about climbing this mountain, but can never tell us anything about this mountain or why it's so important or what makes it special on his journey and career. There's nothing. We just know he's at the top of the mountain. Oh my God. My point being is that the more you talk about a sob story, the lamer it gets, and no one is really going to care at the end of the day. And I wanted to make this half of the podcast segment just perspectives and opinions and breaking down certain things and just having fans realize that Moxley is not the savior of professional wrestling. Professional wrestling is done by a team of everybody included. So that's why I go maybe a little too hard on Moxley. It's because it's a team effort. It is not an I. It really isn't. And it just seems like everything he does, it's about him. And people might tell me that I'm wrong and that he does help people and people around him get the rub or anything like that. And I'm not talking about those times. I'm not talking about personal anecdotes. I'm not talking about personal stuff. I'm looking at it in the moment, in the present, and what's happening in the very, very, very moment. So if he's in a New Japan Pro Wrestling ring and he's talking, or if he's doing a promo in AEW, I'm looking at that specific time and how it's helping everybody. It's not helping as many people as it should, because it comes off as I, and that is my problem with it. It's supposed to be a we thing. I understand that when you get in there, it is an I operation, but when you start formulating promos to talk about your next opponent, or to set up an angle, or to set up a story, or to add a character layer onto yourself, so that way fans can watch you, support you, and connect with you, it becomes a we thing. Everything happens like clockwork. Everything happens on a wheel. There is no I. If there was an I, professional wrestling would not be here for everyone to enjoy. That is what I try to get at. That's why I don't understand why Moxley is the only one that gets all this fluff and nobody else gets fluff. And the moment that some other wrestler gets fluff, it gets buried. But Moxley gets cheered in the fluff, that we know it's fluff, and that there's a lot of loopholes in this fluff where I'm like, can we really think about it for a second? But that's what I wanted to really just talk about, really break it down, and really explain that he's big mad because it's 2 matches. He's fighting a number 3, and that's not really good building for Forbidden Door coming up on June 30th. Just because you want to be done with him, like, then get back the championship title, man. Get back the championship title if you want to be done with Naito. I really do hope that at Forbidden Door, Naito brings home the championship title, because I just can't. I really can't. The saddest part is that Jon Moxley would tell everybody to throw away their social media, because yeah, social media is toxic. However, you can make a lot of money from it. You can build friendships. You can network with people, and people who say that are the ones that have an income already coming in. Other people use social media to build their brand, build their voice, build everything for them to be successful. And social media, yeah, it could be evil, but you got to navigate around it and be like, well, people are always going to be negative. Misery loves company. There's nothing new. But at the same time, you are a professional wrestler. You are supposed to get people's interests going. And unfortunately, we use social media for everything, and it's ingrained in our life. If this was the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, maybe early 2000s, then yeah, probably you wouldn't need social media, right? But guess what? We're in 2024. Social media is still going. I don't think social media is the answer for everything. And most of us, if not all of us, should go out and touch grass and disconnect from social media. But when your livelihood depends on it, being a wrestler, to get more eyes on you because you know people are on social media 24/7, then it's needed. And for you to be a champion because New Japan Pro Wrestling trusts you, you got to be on social media. You got to clap back at your coworkers that say, you should be here, why you're not here? So that way people can talk. The more people that talk, wow, it is good and bad. So it's 50-50. the upside is that you might get more people interested to watch the New Japan product. But because you're not pushing the New Japan product, this is why we're in this freaking hole. And again, it is everybody. It's not just Moxley for that, what I just said. It is everybody. But if you are the champion, you have a responsibility to try to bring more people in, to try to bring more revenue in, to work with Tanahashi, to work with Kadani, to work with Gato, to be like, how can I help you guys make more money in New Japan Pro Wrestling to help feed the boys? Because the boys are hurting and the boys are going elsewhere. Just because AEW can give people all the money in the world, even though that money is eventually going to run out, the boys in Japan need the help. So how are you helping the boys in Japan? By being on American soil with a Japanese title, and most fans do not care about New Japan Pro Wrestling. Well, guess what? I care about New Japan Pro Wrestling, and that is why I keep making these podcast episodes talking about New Japan Pro Wrestling, just trying something, because staying silent don't fix any problems. Staying silent doesn't get anything done. If you want a critical thinker that can think outside the box, I'm your girl, marieshadows. Now, let's talk about the G1 Climax 34, because all 18 participants have been announced. However, we have 2 spots open for, well, 1 and 1. For A block and B block, that makes it 2 spots open to make a complete 20. And these are qualifier winner spots because they're doing qualifier matches. Why? Why are we doing qualifier matches? Did Tony Khan give you the idea to do qualifier matches? Because he likes doing that kind of thing. I need New Japan Pro Wrestling to just stick to standard things when it comes to tournament buildings and not listen to Tony Khan or AEW on how they do their tournaments, even though they copy off of New Japan Pro Wrestling. Anyway, A block. We have Shota Umino, Naito, Shingo, Sonata, Great Khan, Zack Sabre Jr., Gabriel Kidd, Jake Lee, Evo, and then that one A block qualifier winner, which has yet to be decided. Naito has been in the G1 15th entry, 15th consecutive, and is a 2013, 2017, 2023 winner. Could he be the 2024 winner? B block has El Phantasmo, Goto, Tsuji, Yuya, Jeff Cobb, Hinare, David Finlay, Ren Narita, Konosuke, and a B block qualifier winner. Now let's talk about the participants that will be in the tournament to qualify for the last spot. The finals for this qualifying tournament is on July 5th. This is New Japan Pro Wrestling's new way of extending things and times, and they never used to do that before. It was better to announce all 20 participants and wait until the G1 starts and bam, G1 tournament season. And before then, I understand that having multiple tag man matches is annoying and nobody's really going to watch, which happens time and time again for New Japan Pro Wrestling, but this would have been the perfect opportunity to capitalize on storytelling between the next feuds that are going to happen, because now we have one new champion in Aaron Henare of the United Empire. He is our new never openweight champion. He dethroned Shingo, which I am going to gush about on the next episode, so be prepared for that. So we could do a lot within this time before the G1 climax and bring in maybe some stories into the G1 as well. The G1 creates really interesting stories towards the end. So for A block, we have Ishii, Yoshihashi, Callan Newman, Kenta, Chase Owens, and Yujiro. Now, I am going to just say what I originally thought about this is that I want nobody from A block. The only one that I would accept would be Kenta, but I really don't want anybody from A block. B block, we have Tanahashi, Yano, Oleg, Kojima, Taichi, TJP. I would be okay with TJP entering in as the last member of B Block or Taichi, but it honestly doesn't matter. The qualifying tournament to get the last spot in the G1 doesn't really matter because there's no urgency behind this. There's nothing. It's a bunch of their guys that they threw together and no new name other than having Konosuke in the G1, which thank you, Tony Khan, for giving us Konosuke to further his story with Jon Moxley. But Jon Moxley is not going to be in the G1. No mention of him. I don't even know if he's going to be on the tournament. Again, Jon Moxley shows up whenever they tell him to show up rather than telling him to be on the tour. And it's like, he has enough money to survive to be on the tour. You'll probably pay him by appearance, but he has enough money. He could be on the tour. He needs to show the Japanese fans that he is their champion and that he has the belt. Because if you don't, then they're not going to care when the belt gets dropped to somebody else. And they're going to be like, oh, but what? They're not going to care. And it is kind of sad that I saw a tweet about how the IWGP title is not the focus, which should be the focus. But now the focus has been on the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Championship title. And also, to add to what I read on Twitter, now a focus can be on the Never Openweight Championship title. No one cares about the six-man title because the six-man title got handed back to Tanahashi, Yano, and Oleg after Tsuji, Hiromu, and Bushi kept it for like maybe a week, even less. Like, what kind of decision making is that, New Japan Pro Wrestling? Why are you giving the belt back to Tanahashi? Again, Tanahashi, I love you. I would love to talk to you one day. I respect the hell out of you. But why do you need a championship title at this very moment? It makes no sense. So does that mean that Tanahashi might win this qualifying tournament thing and be in the G1? Not to be mean or disrespectful in any way to Tanahashi, but I think it's time for him to be president and start watching everything from the outside rather than being on the inside looking outside. But I really do think he needs to start being president and start fixing New Japan Pro Wrestling rather than just letting it go for the rest of the year. And maybe next year in 2025, they'll have some improvements. Maybe. Anyway, I do think that it's kind of sad that I agree with the original tweet that I saw about how now that the focus is not on the World Championship title, the focus has become on the junior title. And then I just added that the Never can get some focus too. I will say this, that the junior division does get a lot of buzz and praise, and it always seemed like it really wasn't the main focus. There have been certain times where it was the focus and it was the best thing to watch. However, now that the main title's out of the way, we can see the difference and people are enjoying it. And at one point, I was thinking about WCW and their cruiserweight divisions and how people really resonated with that. New Japan Pro Wrestling has the talent, but again, it's about taking the risk. And yeah, while Jon Moxley is not my IWGP champion, they took the risk, put the belt on him. He's over here in America doing whatever the fuck he wants to do. And then over in Japan, the junior division has shined, but the junior division has always shined. That's not because of Moxley or anything else. That's because of the pure talent that the junior division has. And Tanahashi needs to capitalize on the junior division while also having to share the spotlight with the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship title. The same thing can be said for the tag team division, which is very disorganized. But there is talent in the tag team division. It's just that they have to think about how to position the tag team division for it to make sense and also get that spotlight. And I guess when we get to World Tag League, we'll see what happens. But if this is the risk that they're willing to take for 2024, it is working to spotlight the junior division, and that's about it. It is working. However, Tanahashi has to learn how to play chess to make everything shine. And he can watch WWE for that and see how Triple H is able to make everyone shine and make everyone have a little bit of TV time. You may not agree with what Triple H is doing, but he has found a way to make everybody have a little bit of time on a 3-hour show and on a 2-hour show, and it's working. This is what Tanahashi has to learn from Triple H. Now, my overall thoughts for this G1, it is probably difficult to pick 20 people for 2 blocks like how it originally was. However, I will get excited when the time comes because I will be watching and reviewing the G1. And right now, I do not have a pick. Everyone online wants Zack Sabre Jr. Zack Sabre Jr. is not winning this one, guys. He's not. He has not evolved. He's been there in New Japan Pro Wrestling forever. And the only title they gave him aside from the tag team titles is the NJPW World TV title. That right there, I was like, oh man. The TV title for New Japan World should not be a lesser title. It really shouldn't, because it should mean something. You are there to try to get subscriptions to New Japan World by showing the fans, hey, I'm a champion of the internet that you watch New Japan on, because it's not really TV. They don't have a network out here to have like a TV kind of championship title. So I don't know, man. Like, Zack Sabre Jr. is another one that I can go on about, but they're not going to give it to him, man. They're not. He doesn't come off as or look the part of a company guy. He's trustworthy. He's super trustworthy. He's very, very loyal, and he can have a good match. It's just sometimes I see the same things over and over and over. There's no evolution. There's nothing with Zack Sabre Jr. So I am just not. I don't think he's going to get it, guys. I really don't. Jake Lee will be interesting to watch during the A block competition and see what he does with all the rest of the competitors. As for B block, I'm excited to watch Tsuji. Tsuji puts on incredible matches. I'm excited for Jeff Cobb. I'm excited for Hinare. I'm excited for David Finlay. I'm excited to actually sit down and watch some Konosuke matches, just because I don't like how AEW presents their product. AEW has gotten away from their mission since they've been created in 2019. I don't like the commentary team, and I don't like to watch the referees take away from the wrestlers inside the ring. So finally, in a New Japan Pro Wrestling ring, I can watch Konosuke free of any distractions. If you were to ask me who will be my pick for the G1, I'm going to go with David Finlay. However, I do think that there's more story that David Finlay needs to tell before he ends up getting a world title shot. He'll get that world title shot eventually. However, I don't know if it's going to be for next year. I think that depending what happens at Forbidden Door, which I want Naito to win, but in the event that Naito does not win, I will have Naito win the G1, take the belt off of Moxley. Anybody on the New Japan roster should be taking the belt off of Moxley. Jeff Cobb can be taking the belt off of Moxley. Hinare could be taking the belt off of Moxley. David Finlay could be taking the belt off of Moxley. Not Konosuke, because Konosuke is not a New Japan contracted wrestler. He is still part of DDT, maybe. He hasn't went back to DDT ever since they brought him over. But he is an AEW star, so Konosuke can't get it at the very moment. Evil can take the belt off of Moxley. Shingo can take the belt off of Moxley. Shingo is not a champion anymore, so I would love for Shingo to be IWGP World Heavyweight Champion. Naito could get it back. And no, Shota is still too young still too green. He is still learning. Shota Umino will not be champion just yet. And it will not make any sense for Shota to take it off of Jon Moxley. That will be a situation in WWE like when they gave the belt to Batista. Batista didn't know how to be utilized. When they gave the belt to Sheamus, didn't know how to be utilized. Anybody that was young in WWE that ended up getting the championship title did not know how to be utilized. Shota still needs to work on a lot of things. Shota needs to create his own version of what Shota Umino is and not copy off of anybody. Don't copy moves off of anybody. Shota is great. I can see the potential underneath all of the layers that people have stacked onto him to shape him into what they want. Shota Umino has not been shaped into Shota Umino. Shota Umino has been shaped into what everybody else sees him as, and he just accepts it. And one day, his heel turn is going to be brilliant. It really is going to be brilliant. But no, he's not going to dethrone Moxley, so don't send me those comments. Other than that, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to let you know that this is the wrap-up version of the ending of the podcast, which I'm not sure if I should say that, but I'm going to say it anyway. Just know that everything that I say on the podcast comes from a place of wanting to learn. Nothing is coming from a place of hate, dislike, whatever buzzword you want to throw around. It is okay to disagree with me. It is okay to push back. It is okay to present a different perspective. So maybe I can change a perspective that you think that I might be wrong about, or just, may want to give me extra knowledge. It's okay to have difference of opinions. It's okay to, again, agree to disagree if you want to agree to disagree. I only wanted to make this podcast episode to, again, shine a light on the weird uprising in fluff pieces that make absolutely no sense, because it will make sense if the fluff pieces matches what we're currently seeing. And again, I've been saying this the whole entire time, that we're watching everything in real time. We're watching the NJPW and AEW partnership in real time. We're watching Jon Moxley, not my IWGP champion, in real time. We're watching Naito in real time. We're watching how things come together and fall apart in real time. So I am giving social commentary on the things that are happening on Twitter, things that are happening in New Japan Pro Wrestling. I only want wrestling to improve. I only want wrestlers to improve. And in order to improve, you got to talk about maybe uncomfortable things. And in order for things to improve, you have to really put your voice out there. And that is what exactly this is. And I hope that you understand where I'm coming from in this episode of breaking down, if you want to call it a little bit of drama on Twitter, because I ruffle feathers. It's not really a big deal, but it's something to talk about. And if what Jon Moxley is doing, if it was believable, I promise you I will not be making any of these podcast episodes. But because it's not believable and other people online want you to believe that the delusion of being real and believable is happening, no, it's not. No one is going to benefit from it. Everyone is going to eventually feel bad at the end of the day when they realize that, oh, it was lame. Why did I push it so hard? If you as an individual stand firm in your beliefs and your conviction and your perspective and your opinion, and you know what is right, what is wrong, what is truthful, what is a lie, and if you can critically think about it and break it down and show proof and perspective and everything else that comes with really looking at stuff and coming to a conclusion, then you are believable and people will follow you, because it's all about confidence. That is what makes people believe in you and believe in your message and see the kind of person that you are. It's the confidence to continue to go on. But I don't make this for any malicious intent. I don't make this because disliking people or hate or anything like that. I do it to provide social commentary. I do it to provide an analytical view. And that is all of my content. My content is all based in kayfabe in professional wrestling. And I like sharing my knowledge. I like sharing what I know. And I appreciate each and every single one of you guys that take the time out of your day to listen to my podcast episodes, to comment, to share, and to also check out the links down below for every which way to support me, whether that's signing up to my wrestling newsletter, marieshadows.substack.com, grabbing a membership over at Fourth Wall. Fourth Wall is very similar to Patreon, but Fourth Wall is an all-in-one membership site where you can grab a membership and then you could also buy some merch, anything to help me out. And then you could also follow me on social media such as Twitter at Marie_shadows. You can also just follow me wherever I go. Make sure to check out all the links down below. You can check out my website. It gives you a little bit more information about my background in professional wrestling. And you could also get my wrestling planner for 2024 on there as well. I will say this here before officially wrapping up, is that the next couple of podcast episodes, they are going to be out of order because I just want to make the podcast episodes and have you listen to it. So I will be talking about the WWE PLE Clash at the Castle. I am calling it the Scotland Screwjob. So it's going to be fun talking about it and getting into the matches and talking about my thoughts. Then after that will be individual podcast episodes reviewing matches for New Japan Pro Wrestling, such as Shingo versus Hinare, the first match where they had the draw, and then the second match where Hinare is our new Never Openweight Championship title, and I am so proud of him for getting his first championship title. And I will talk about anything else that I missed. So again, those podcast episodes will be out of order. So after this one, the other ones are going to drop. Just stay tuned to youtube.com/Square Circle Podcast. Hit that follow button. Hit that notification bell to never miss an episode ever again. If you are just strictly audio, then head over to Spotify, search Square Circle Podcast, and follow the Square Circle Podcast on Spotify as well, and you'll get those notifications. And anywhere else that you listen to podcasts, I am on there, Square Circle Podcast. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening to a brand new episode of the Square Circle Podcast, where you and I found out why Jon Moxley is so big mad at Naito, because according to his Collision promo, he wants to be done with Naito, put him in the ground just because of 2 matches that they had. He's super big mad. Ooh, bad Naito. How dare you want a championship title match after fighting him twice? And I'll see you guys on the next one.